I just shared the link if anyone wants to share it on the social media. YouTube live is there. All right, let's give additional 3 minutes, and then on sharp 15 minutes, we'll start the lecture. Meanwhile, floor is open for anyone for announcements or anything you want to share with us. If you liked Laurentius' compositions, if you want to share it, we are recording. It's live, so it will remain in our Sapere Aude warming up, ice breaking part before the lecture starts. Brother Stefan, you are one of the professionals in musical part, in art. So what was, if you had chance to listen to the concert?
First of all, greetings to all. I watched it from the start. There was a technical glitch at the beginning. Somehow, unfortunately, it could have been what we know as a jack, either interfering with sound or with vision. But more or less during the 7th minute, after the 7th minute, it went okay. I tried to phone Laurentiu, but obviously he couldn't talk. I guess I sent him a message. He came back, he gave feedback, and that way, luckily for everyone, then we could enjoy the show, which was very interesting. Especially the Song of Songs, which was totally unhindered then. But the first pieces, even his introductory speech, hopefully they have a backup now, needs to be re-edited because we were deprived of the sound somehow. At least at my end, I checked other sources, musical sources, and the sound was coming out fine. So this was a minor glitch, basically. It happens. What I suggest is next time around, whoever does anything should have a dummy take, what we call it technically, so that at least one is 99.9% sure that technologically one is not betrayed in this sense. But this happens. Only on live TV you can get away from it, and the live performance is a live performance. But they did wonderfully. The picture was nice. There was harmony. At times, the music carried your soul to different parts. Language was not an issue in terms of the Song of Songs because it's profoundly spiritual. It gives you these moods and colors of the soul in more ways than one, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I was doing other things at the same time, preparing as well, and it took me quite a long way, I must say, in so much that it's still echoing at the second room of my brain, second chamber of my brain, I would say. So I will be thinking on it once I lay my head on the pillow at night when I do most of the thinking, basically. So thank you, Laurentio, even though he's not here right now. I did thank him via WhatsApp. Hopefully he'll see it. Probably they are rejoicing now because it was a huge effort. That's my opinion. I mean, I'm not a musical savvy to that depth. I'm a theater person, but they did a very good job, which involved a lot of preparation, I would say. So bravo.
Bravo, and thank you, Laurentiu, for sharing the links and making it public. It will stay as a recording, I suppose. Maybe they will be editing the beginning of the concert. So anyway, it was a very, very good concert, and I think, professionally speaking, it was a beginning of a new era when you can go live and kind of broadcast your compositions through different channels, and you don't necessarily need TV stations today. You can do whatever you want with this technology.
But you know,
Hopefully, we get to see more of it. Hopefully.
as Shakespeare said,
Hopefully.
if music be the food of love, play on.
Play on. Yes.
Brethren, then with your permission, I will disable your microphone so we can ensure that the recording is fine. Brother Hasu, you should be able to control your side. Brother Salman, there is a request on your screen. I'm not making you co-host, so that way you kind of, I'm trying to avoid you from listening to these beeps all the time when someone comes in or leaves the room, and that way it doesn't distract your attention. So let's go to the lecture part, to introduction. And before introduction, I will use once again the opportunity to congratulate Brother Laurentiu for very, very beautiful work that he has performed, his own composition with his colleagues. I congratulate them for the very nice concert that many of us enjoyed today live on YouTube. And I hope it will be available as a recording for future references and future emotional joy for those who missed it to follow live. So once again, thank you, Brother Laurentiu, for sharing the links and making it possible for us to enjoy your work. From my side, I will start the lecture by introducing the topic, the speaker, reminding the rules, and then let's enjoy the lecture together. So, Gamar Jubat, that is hello in my native Georgian, and welcome to Sapere Aude number 308. Topic of the discussion is actually the continuation of the topic that we had a few months earlier, and it is parallel comparison between Sufism and Masonic teachings. And this is part 2, and it will be delivered again by Brother Salman Sheikh, who promised us to share very interesting slides, some things that we may have not know, and I hope we will all enjoy one more excellent talk from Brother Salman. I will use the opportunity to remind those who will be watching this in the recording that Brother Salman's talks that he gave to Sapere Aude are available on YouTube channel of Sapere Aude, and I definitely highly recommend to go back, search it, and enjoy it, especially part 1, which is Sufism, and the other one was regarding the Mad principle. So both are available there. And of course, for those who may want to learn more about Brother Salman's excellent work, I would recommend Googling his name on YouTube, and you will find plenty of talks he has delivered through his own channel. And for those who might be interested in future, please check the description of this video on YouTube, and it will have the link so you can easily find Brother Salman's works. So let me start from there, that in continuation of the series of public lectures, we have the honor to host Brother Salman Sheikh, who is a Masonic lecturer, author, and writer. His writings have been published in various Masonic magazines in USA, such as the Pennsylvania Freemason, Rocky Mountain Mason, and the Southern California Lodge of Research. He has given lectures to various lodges and Masonic bodies online and in person, such as SRIA, which stands for Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, and lodges in the USA. He has produced over 100 YouTube videos lectures on the study of Masonry and its comparison to various paths to find the oneness in all of them. He recently published a book, The Spiritual Reflection of the Sufi Freemason, Volume 1, which is available on Amazon in ebook and paperback format. He is the first person in his family to become a Mason and follow the Sufi Tariqa, which is order, at the same time. He belongs to the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania in the United States under their ancient accepted Scottish Rite Valley of Philadelphia with the 32nd degree and the Royal Arch Companion of Holy Royal Arch Chapter number 183. Also a Master Mason under the Lansdowne Lodge number 711, Pennsylvania, United States. So later on, I will share the link to Brother Salman's YouTube channel in the chat room here on Zoom, also in the description of this recording. And for those who are following us on YouTube, I will share it in several minutes. Again, I will use the opportunity to remind that Sapere Aude has rules, and that is very simple. That we don't discuss interjurisdictional issues, we don't discuss politics and religion for political or religious purposes. We do not proselytize any political views or in religious traditions or in Masonic traditions or in any esoteric schools. We come here to learn, understand, expand our worldviews on different things, mainly focusing on Freemasonry, but not limiting ourselves to this particular tradition and trying to see beyond the universe that surrounds us. So for that reason, we come here as individual members of our societies, and we do not represent any institution, Masonic or non-Masonic, that we may be member of or be affiliated with. And every single opinion or question that we'll share here during the discussion or talk should be treated as our own personal opinions, and definitely should not be interpreted at all as any official standpoint of any institution whatsoever, but only our own personal ones, which may not coincide with the official standpoints of the organizations we may be part of, and sometimes it could be contradicting as well. So again, it's our personal opinions that we share here, or experiences. Sapere Aude being an independent, apolitical, public, international, absolutely independent institution and platform, welcomes everyone, male and female, members and non-members. Everyone is welcome to join us, enjoy the lecture, participate in the lecture, express themselves. The only requirement to participate in the Zoom is just to express yourself in a civilized manner and with a common sense delicacy, and that's the only thing that we want from it. Otherwise, we'll try to elaborate on anything that you may be questioning us on. I think that's it from my side, and Brother Salman, looking forward to another brilliant talk that you always deliver, and an interesting discussion. Sorry for those who had to miss the lecture because of our rescheduling it because of the concert, but I hope you will enjoy it through YouTube and in future as a recording. Brother Salman, once again, the floor is yours. And because of my some internet limitations, which I'm working through here in the United States, today the host will be Brother Hasu. And if I disappear or disconnect, nothing changes. Everything is being recorded, everything is done that way. So Brother Hasu is in charge of the whole session. So once again, thank you so much. Floor is all yours. I'm here with you as long as the internet allows.
All right. Okay, let me hit share screen. Okay. Do you see this, Brother David? All right.
It's coming. It just needs a few seconds, I suppose.
Sure.
It's loading. Yep. House not made with hands. Yep. It's full screen, all fine.
Let me, I think it skipped the slide. Okay, here we are. Should be fine now. All right. Greetings and peace, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this presentation. Tonight, or this afternoon, I have the honor and privilege of doing the Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry presentation. I was here in Sapere Aude this past January, and I did part one for the brothers and sisters of Sapere Aude. So this is basically a continuation of the same topic and lecture. And for those that will watch this in the future, I encourage you to watch part one before watching part two. I dedicate this presentation to Brother David Chichinatse, Brother Hasu Joshi, and all of the brothers and sisters of Sapere Aude, the Right Worshipful Past Grand Master here in Pennsylvania, Brother S. Eugene Harrod, 33rd degree, to Sheikh Wahid Azal of the Fatimiyya Sufi Order, and also to Brother Angel Millar, and all of the brothers and sisters who have inspired me to do the work that I'm doing. And again, I represent myself only, and I'm not imposing my views upon anyone. And as free thinkers, we're all here to learn. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity. First, we start with the Kaaba in the holy city of Mecca in the east. And the Kaaba, when you go there, and one of the duties of the pilgrim is to go to the Kaaba in the east, if one is financially or physically capable to do so. Just like in the fraternity, you join if you are financially capable to do so. And when you go to the Kaaba in the east, there's the rite of circumambulation, basically the rite of initiation that you have to take. And you have to go around the Kaaba 7 times, 7, the 7th letter being G in Freemasonry, signifying God, and the completion signifying the 7 planets, where even if you look at the ancient paintings of Egypt and Mesopotamia, you see the 7 planets always in observance. So the 7 is also to signify the time that God took to complete the earth, that he completed the earth and the heavens in 7 days. 7 signifies the completion. And inside you have the pillars and the altar. And the cornerstone of this temple of God was basically laid by Abraham and his son Ishmael. Now, there's a saying that there's a rock inside of the Kaaba. It's a meteorite that fell from heaven. And a lot of the Islamic and Sufi sources says that it came from heaven. So this resembles the cornerstone, the house not made with hands. And in here in the Kaaba, everyone wears the white cloth of the ihram, which basically signifies Hiram, that everyone becomes Hiram Abith. And you wear this white cloth of innocence, equivalent to the white lambskin of the Master Mason. And here, it doesn't matter if you're a CEO, you're a janitor, you're a teacher, you're a millionaire, billionaire. Everyone is equally divested, equal on the level, wearing the white cloth of purity, walking around in their rite of circumambulation across the pillars and the altar, the perfect ashlar stone, which is the Kaaba, to signify their completion and union with God. And if we look at the tracing board of Freemasonry, we have the 3 pillars of strength, wisdom, and beauty. And between strength and wisdom, you also have the Kaaba, the perfect ashlar stone on the bottom. And that signifies the same, the aspect of Jacob's ladder and finding that divinity within you, as Brother Hasu always says, that we always carry that within us. We just have to discover how to tap into it. And there's a hadith in the Sufi teachings which tell us that God is known by 3 signs, and that is the sun, the moon, and the eye of God himself, which in the Sufi traditions, they refer to as Al-Basir, one of the 99 names of God, meaning God is always watching you at all times. And you are basically under 24/7 surveillance. And you have to be of a good character at all times. So the sun and the moon are representations of God, and the third representation. So even in Islam, in the Sufi traditions, there is the triune self of God being represented in 3 different forms: the sun, the moon, and the master himself. Which in the lodge you see what are the 3 lights: the sun, the moon, and the worshipful master. So even the lodge is astrologically is representing that divinity when you go from one station to another, when you go from junior warden to senior warden to worshipful master. And this is what this also signifies: the strength, wisdom, and beauty, including the black and white tiles, And we see the black and white on the Kaaba as well. And that signifies that throughout your life, you'll have good times, you'll have bad times. Not every day in your life is supposed to be a good day. Things come in waves. You just have to try to live your life to the best ability that you can and go your way up until Jacob's ladder and try to find that oneness and union with the beloved, because the goal of the Sufi is to basically let go of this world and to become one with his beloved, which is God. For him, this world is like an open air prison that he has to escape from. So the initiation rites among the dervishes. So whenever you join a Sufi tariqa, whether it's Bektashi, Naqshbandi, any Sufi order that's there, the candidate must be recommended by 2 members of the order who can vouch for his character to the sheikh or the master. Once recommended, the initiate must respect all brethren equally, despite his worldly rank or title. Hold on a second. Okay. There it is. Oh, excuse me. Let me go back there. I think this is probably better. So the initiation rites among the dervishes. The candidate must be recommended by 2 members of the order who can vouch for his character to the sheikh or the master. Once recommended, the initiate must respect all brethren equally, despite his worldly rank or title. The work entails of chanting the names of God, memorizing portions of the Quran, helping with public services, and period of seclusion and fasting. Now, this is equivalent to in Freemasonry when you are in a probationary period between different degrees. You are told to basically show your proficiency between intern apprentice, fellow craft, master mason, and you have to memorize the work. And there are also aspects of charity where you have to donate to the local school, do the alms giving, do the charities, and memorize the ritual and the prayers. And also a period of seclusion and fasting, which to the Masonic perspective is circumscribe your desires and live your life in moderation. And there's also a probationary period during recommendation and initiation. What happens in some dervishes' rites and some initiatic rites is there's a period of, let's say, 1 year, or some might have 400 days between each degree. Some might have like a 1,000 days, like Rumi's order, the Mevlevi order of Sufism, the dervishes. Their probationary period is 1,000 days, where they observe you for that period of time. That are you doing the prayers? Are you doing the work? Are you learning the work? Are you memorizing different portions of the prayers and services and doing the work that you've been instructed to do? So the brother must promise to be faithful to his oath, protect and guard the secrets of which are entrusted to him, and live his life in obedience to the will of God. And in the Sufi traditions, the lodges are known as the tekkas. And the tekkas are usually where you go when there's a period where you get brought from darkness to light. In that period, what happens is you are basically told the nature of this world, that we are in this world to basically learn something. This is a spiritual school. We're here to walk each other home and uplift each other. And one day you have to leave this earth with nothing except your good deeds. And those concepts are also reminded to us in the initiatic rites of Freemasonry, where we are taught that one day you will have to lay down your working tools and you have to leave this earth, and you have to find the aspects of your life in a good and honest way. Now we see the degrees of the Knights Templar and the Ismaili Islamic assassins. Now, during this time, during the 13th century, both the Knights Templar and the Ismailis were being persecuted in their own ways during that time, and they had a very similar rank structure. The Knights Templars, they had the Grand Master, the 3 Grand Priors, the Provincial Prior, the Chaplains, the Knights, the Esquires, the Serving Brethren, the Donato and the Obligati, and the last rank, Affiliati, those who were affiliates. The assassins of Hassan Saba and the Hashashin and the Old Man of the Mountain, they had the Grand Master or the Prince of the Mountain, the Dais al-Kabir or the 3 great viceroys under him, the Dais or provincial masters, the Rafiqs and chaplains, the Lazik, who would be the military aspect, the Fadain, who would be the ones that would be ready to die to fulfill their mission, and the Batani, the secret brethren or affiliates. Now, during this time in the Middle East or the Holy Land, the Knights Templar and the Ismaili assassins always interacted with each other, and they always had a similar uniform. They both wore red and white, so when one was coming at you in battle, you could not tell who was who. There were times when they worked with each other, and there were times that they worked against each other. And both have had a great influence on Freemasonry, as there were different Sufi initiatic rites that they all studied under at the King Solomon's temple, which is now the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Beneath the temple, they have these different chambers, including the Well of the Souls, and even the place where Solomon used to pray. And to this day, those that go to that part of the world, they will be allowed to visit that place to be able to observe how things were done. So these two always studied with each other. Now, most people would say that the assassins were destroyed by the Mongols, but many of the Ismailis, they blended in with many Sufi orders, and that's how they were able to survive. Just like how there's a saying that the Knights Templar, after the wars, they went over back to Europe and they blended in with the different guilds of Europe, and that's how they were able to ensure their survival. Now, what happens is, like, now we see two different Freemasonries. Now we see a universal Freemasonry, where it doesn't matter what your rank, religion, or your background is, you're accepted into the brotherhood. While there are some places where if you're a Christian only, that's when you're allowed to join. And those places, instead of displaying the square and compasses, they will display the cross. And that's when the strict and universal comes in. And even in Freemasonry, what we see today, basically as a form of Neo-Templarism, where we see those teachings signified in the different degrees. And it's teaching us the moral values of what it means to be a knight, which is to come together as one family, and to be defenders of the faith, regardless of who we are. Because at the end, that's what also solidified the relation between Richard and Saladin, because it was not about basically prostrating one faith to be on top of the other. It was about to be a defender and a knight in chivalry of all faiths. Okay. Now we see the Arabization of the Knights Templars. Now, the charges against them accused them of being crypto-Muslim with the worshipping of Baphomet, which was basically, the name was changed, and Baphomet really represented Muhammad, and they were charged with the denial of Christ. They were persecuted on Friday, which is a holy day for Muslims and Sufis. And the Templars, they were their own independent authority in the Holy Land. They made treaties in the Holy Land with the Muslims, contrary to French interests, and betraying Frankish armies to Muslims during periods of conflicts, because they were given this authority to kind of have their own personal jurisdiction on who they would deal with and in which manner they would deal with. Sometimes that would serve their purpose or would serve the purpose of the greater good. You have Robert of St. Albans, an English Knights Templar who converted to Islam and married Saladin's niece. And in the 1270s, the Templar commander in Sidon, Matthew Sawaj, also spelled Sarmej, and the Mamluk ruler of Egypt, Sultan Bebers, were blood brothers. Hugo de Pins, excuse my French if not, I'm not saying that right. He was the co-founder and the first Grand Master of the Knights Templar, who was a Moorish Sufi, and his grandfather had initiated him into the mysteries. So we already see that even during the inceptions of Sufism or Templarism or what we have today in our unity of Freemasonry, those bonds were always there. They were always there, forged together since day one. Now we have the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Temple Mount, which is near and dear to all of us as Masons, with our own special affinity for it. Now, there's a Masonic meeting that has actually taken place in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and this is something that has also appeared in the London Evening News of September 3rd, 1918. And it shows that the Freemasons in Palestine have held a Masonic meeting on the historic site of King Solomon's Temple, where Freemasonry is supposed to have originated about 1000 BC. This meeting was organized by the members of the New England Expeditionary Force in Palestine, the Mosque of Umar being on the site of the temple. The New Zealanders approached the great sheikh in charge of the mosque for permission. Then occurred an incident showing the universal order of Freemasonry. The Sheikh listened to what the strangers had to say, and then to their amazement, he asked if there were any Masons among them. The rest was easy. He declared himself a Mason, and at the meeting, he acted as one of the guards of the lodge. The place within the mosque where the meeting was held is known as the Cave of the Rock of the Dome, the Temple Mount, and is believed to have been the Holy of Holies of the old temple, as it is today of the Mosque of Umar. Soldiers of all ranks were present, and after a lodge had been duly constituted and opened, resolutions were passed conveying fraternal greetings and good wishes to the various grand lodges, to the lodges in New Zealand and the brethren on service in France. So this shows you that one of the holiest sites for the Sufis in our faith, and also in Freemasonry, this is a parallel comparison, that there is a Masonic meeting that has taken place in one of the holiest sites in Islam. And it shows the universal order that wherever you go, Masons will always be there to lend a hand to their brothers, to be able to make sure that everything goes accordingly. And the beauty and the universality of this order, which goes back since time immemorial, and it basically brings us all together. Now we have the Auld Lang Syne, which comes from Robert Burns in Freemasonry. And in the Sufi zikr circles, where we go to the Sufi lodges, we also form a circle hand in hand, and we go around singing odes and hymns to the glory of the grand architect of the universe. Just like in the Masonic lodges, there are many lodges that still do this festive tradition where they go around in these circular fashions, showing the spiral nature of the universe, and everyone coming together for the sake of brotherhood, for charity, love, and coming together to show the aspects of universal brotherhood, and coming together to not only uplift each other, but also give glory to the grand architect of the universe. So that's a tradition parallel in both Sufism and Masonry. We also have the aspect of silsila, which is the spiritual lineage and recognition. And this is in parallel comparison to the Masonic silsila. So silsila is the spiritual lineage of a Sufi order in which they trace their grand sheikh to the lineage and being a descendant of Muhammad. For a majority of Sufi orders to be considered legitimate, their sheikh has to be a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. Orders whose lineage does not go back to Muhammad are considered basically, how do you say, the orders that do not go back to the founder of the faith, they're not considered regular recognized. And they also have clandestine Sufis as well, basically Sufi orders that they make up their own Sufi order, and they are not connected to that silsila or that connection with the Prophet in any way. And in Freemasonry, the parallel comparison is that all Grand Lodges trace their origin to the Mother Grand Lodge, which is in England. If you're not recognized by UGLE, then that limits you severely in terms of Masonic recognition and being welcomed as a regular recognized brother on an international level. So that silsila is a parallel comparison to Sufism as well, where if your Grand Sheikh or if your order does not go back to the founder of the faith, then you're considered clandestine. So that's a parallel comparison that I found. We also have Al-Fatwa, which is Islamic knighthood and mentoring from youth. Fatwa is the way of the Fatah. In Arabic, Fatah literally means a handsome, brave youth. After the enlightenment of Islam, following the use of the word in the Holy Quran, Fatah, plural, Fityan, came to mean the ideal, noble, and perfect man whose hospitality and generosity would extend until he had nothing left for himself. A man who would give all, including his life, for the sake of his friends. According to the Sufis, Fatwa is a code of honorable conduct that follows the example of the prophets, saints, sages, and the intimate friends and lovers of God. And it is taught starting from a young age, and you are encouraged to learn self-defense, learn morality, allegory, the arts and sciences, anything that increases you to be a better human being in your life. In Freemasonry in America, we have groups like the Demolay, we have other youth groups like Job's Daughter, Rainbow Girls, and other Masonic groups as a parallel comparison. So in Al-Fatwa, you are taught basically Sufi chivalry, meaning if you see something going on, you try to help someone, and even if you have to give the shirt off your back to help someone in need, you do so. And it's basically everyone in Freemasonry also teaches you that all humanity has a claim upon your kind offices. And Al-Fatuwa and the knighthood and chivalry is there. And here in the parallel comparisons, we also see that in Demolay and other groups that are taking place, and Masons who take in a very serious effort to be involved in basically the grooming of their youth to be the leaders of tomorrow. And here in the Demolay concept, they refer to the Masonic leader as a father. So he's referred to as a Masonic dad. So in Al-Fatuwa, you also have a sheikh or mentors that take you under their wing, and you are basically looking up to a father figure who's there to guide you, who's there to give you constructive criticism, who's there to mentor you, uphold you, and sculpt you into a great man. And that is a parallel comparison with Masonry and Demolay that I saw. Now you have the importance of free thinking. Now in Sufism and Freemasonry, we are taught that all of us have our own views in our lives. If we all thought the same, and if we all did the same things, then the world would be a boring place. We would not get to learn from each other. So the importance of free thinking is very generalized. And one of the commandments of the Fatimiyya Sufi order, which I am also a part of, commandment number 3, it always tells you that always on the path of the great work of life to death, to palingenetic resurrection, rely upon what thine own inner light and what the truth within tells thee, and not what thy neighbor, preacher, rabbi, priest, minister, mullah, sheikh, guru, clairvoyant, astrologer, institution, corporation, superior, bureaucrat, politician, or popular consensus insists or demands that ye think and do. Therefore, the only obedience due on the path of the great work of life to death, to palingenetic resurrection, is obedience to that voice of truth emanating forth when truly unveiled from within the essential light of thine own inner being, or to that living, vertical embodification of the proof of that truth in the outer world and nothing else. So listen most intently to that mighty voice of truth. So in Freemasonry, my brothers and sisters, we are taught that ultimately you are a free thinker, and everything happens with free will and accord. As a free thinker in your own free will and accord, and you have to decide, you are given the tools, but you have your own path that you will walk. Like you are told in your initiation, that there are many who have walked this path before you, many good and worthy fellows before you. You will also walk, but this is your path alone. So you cannot let anybody put you in a position where your own free will and your own inner intuition is compromised. And that is another parallel comparison with Freemasonry, where we are taught to be free thinkers. Now we have Al-Zahir, the exoteric outer, and the Al-Batin, which is the esoteric inner. Zahir refers to the outer dimensions of the Islamic faith and what the outsider sees initially, such as the community prayers, mosques, charities, basic teachings, etc. In Freemasonry, this can be seen as the lodge community events, pancake breakfast, charities, and other outreach programs that the community comes to know the people as. Batin refers to the inner spiritual dimensions and what only the true initiate of the heart will have access to. The eye of providence knows who to select. In Sufism, the inner mysteries are revealed by the divine for those worthy. In Freemasonry, this can extend to special invitation-only esoteric bodies that one cannot petition to or apply for. You have to be seen as worthy and chosen and receive an invitation to be a part of the esoteric group or body within Freemasonry. So in the aspect of the Zahir, which is the exoteric outer, and Zahir also refers to one of the 99 names of God in Sufism. And that shows you the aspect of what we know as, there's 3 different types of Sufis regard those in the Islamic faith. One is a secular Muslim, one is a practicing Muslim, and one is a cultural Muslim, one who's basically born into the faith. They don't do any of the prayers, they just grow up and the identity was given to them by their parents. They were told, okay, you're from this country, this is your name, this is your faith. And they have a connection to the faith, even though they are not doing any of the practices. And Now we have those that are the practicing one, those that are the inner initiates. Those are the ones that usually go on the path of Sufism. And in the path of Sufism, you are given the interdimensional teachings of the faith, such as in Freemasonry. You can have those that even when they become a Master Mason, and they are a Master Mason in good standing, for majority of them, their journey will stop there. They will not extend to other bodies. They will not they will not go forth for other forms of knowledge. They will not get involved to a point where they will be selected for other esoteric initiatic bodies. Now we have the Saliq, the Traveling Man. A Saliq is a follower of Sufism from the verb salaka, which means to travel or follow, related to suluk, pathway. Suluk here specifically refers to a spiritual path, the combination of the two paths that can be followed in religion, the exoteric path or Sharia and the esoteric path or Hakika to find God. In Freemasonry, one who is a traveling man represents a worthy brother on his journey towards the east, from darkness to true Masonic light. Masons refer to each other as traveling men, while in Sufism, those that are a traveling man are referred to as Saliqs. And that shows you that we're on this journey, basically. See, in your life, everything will have a shelf life, including people, places, things, and organizations. Your life is like a storybook. Your people will come and go in your life. Things will come and go in your life. Experiences will come and go in your life. Jobs will come and go in your life. You cannot have any animosity towards anything if something is not there in your life anymore. But take your life as a storybook, like how in Freemasonry, we are always reminded of our death. In the Sufi aspect, it's the same thing. We're always reminded of our death. And to realize that each day in this life that you've been given, you are a guest house here. You checked in at a certain time when you came out of your mother's womb, and you can check out at any time as well when your time is over. So embrace all the lessons that come your way to try to find the truth of self and God. When you know thyself, you know thy Lord. You know thy Lord, you know thyself. And that is what it means to be a Saliq or a traveling man. Now, most people don't know this about Aleister Crowley, that he was also a Sufi initiate, and of course, he was a Freemason as well. And we go to the concept of Aleph, Lam, Mim. Aleph, I am. Lam, or Aleister Crowley's Lam, an abbreviation of God or Allah in Sufism. Mim, an abbreviation of Al-Alim, or the knowing, means I am God, the knowing. Crowley was initiated in 1904 by a Sufi sheikh in Egypt, and he details this in his book, The Confessions, in the early 1900s. Crowley recited Surah Al-Ikhlas, Declaration of God, from the Holy Quran as he was instructed by his sheikh, continuously 111 times without any break, consecutively. Afterwards is when he opens the inner gateway and is inspired by Lam, or God, one of the Arabic names of God, to write the book of the law. The Thelemites have Islamic influences and respect Islam as much as did their founder, who was also a Freemason. And this is a parallel comparison that I came across looking into the teachings of Crowley and how his time spent in Egypt and learning from the Sufi sheikhs there, learning the prayers, and how there it was exactly where he met Lam. So that's when I was able to draw that connection, that he was also a Mason, and he built a society or a group of society that has a universal respect for all faiths. And here we will see Crowley in his Sufi attire, where he's wearing the Sufi turban. Now we have Insan al-Kamil, the perfect man. As Brother Hasu says, you have divinity within you. And as we see the way the Insan al-Kamil is positioning himself without giving away too much on this public platform, you can see that as Masons, that looks very familiar. So as Insan al-Kamil, basically you have God in you, and it has the word of God written in Arabic inside of you. And we spend our whole lives thinking we're looking at the sky, we're looking at the different religious places, we're looking over here, not realizing that God is in a place where you least expect it, which is yourself. And you are that temple. Even in Freemasonry, you are building that temple within. You are that temple in construction. So in reality, What the Sufis basically are teaching you, that every living being on this earth, including myself, Brother David, Brother Hasu, everything is an extension of that divine infinite being that's experiencing itself through these different avatars and infinite realities and simulations and possibilities and outcomes on this planet through plants, beings, animals, minerals, trees, the rain, the sky, the light, the moon, the sun, everything. So Insan al-Kamil, as the Mason strives himself to become that perfect ashlar and to become that perfect being, each day he's chipping away at his imperfections to try to become that archetypal temple within. Insan al-Kamil in Sufism also teaches you to strive for the same. So there's another parallel comparison that I was able to draw. And of course, the way the Insan al-Kamil is positioning himself physically will look very, very familiar to all Freemasons without saying anything further. Now we have the Sufi and Masonic importance of free will and accord. You get out what you put in. So free will in Sufism is that there is no evidence to indicate that each man's life is preordained, and that he has no choice or option in choosing between good and right, good and bad, right and wrong. And the teachings of the Quran and Sufism categorically rejects the concept of compulsion and clearly states that every human being is free to choose between good and evil. And there are verses from the Quran that says that there shall be no compulsions in matters of faith. And also, man will only have what he strives for. Just like in Freemasonry, if you want to be a Freemason, you have to ask a Freemason. In your life, if you want to accomplish something, you have to do the work. Nothing is going to be handed to you. You have to do the work. Just like in the lodge, you have to do the work to go from junior warden to senior warden to worshipful master to immediate past master, and so on and so forth. And in your life, everything in this world has been given to you. Just like when you were initiated into the mysteries of Freemasonry, you are told, here are the tools, here are the knowledge, here's what's been given to you. The rest, it's your road to follow alone, and you cannot blame anyone else while you're learning your own journey. So in the Sufi aspect, it's the same. You're given the tools, you're given the knowledge, but it's your journey and your free will and accord. What you decide between good and evil, that will be the matter between you and divinity. So moving on to Christian Rosenkreutz and Sufism. Rosenkreutz was initiated by the Ikhwan Al-Safa, and the rose, the symbol of the rose, predates Rosicrucianism, and it was used in Sufism. So in Sufism, we see the painting of the rose with the religious inscribings on the painting. And the rose was basically attributed to Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, who was the founder of the Qadiriyya Sufi order. And he was known as the Rose of Baghdad in Iraq, where he was stationed. And what happens in the Sufi teachings is when you become a master of the work, equivalent to a worshipful master or a sheikh, they give you a rose. They give you like a necklace full of roses. When you memorize the Holy Quran, front to back, back to front, you become a master of the work, equivalent to Freemasonry when you become a master. And the rose basically signifies your union with God, as I have even seen with the SRIA in their paintings and symbolism, there's a stairway that leads you to the mystical union with God. So when Christian Rosenkreutz was going through the Holy Land in the different parts of North Africa and the Middle East, he was initiated into the mysteries by Ikhwan al-Safa. And Ikhwan al-Safa, for them, it was not about just welcoming Muslims only. They welcomed all people who were of a good recommendation, of a good report, good background, and they wanted to join on their own free will and accord to learn knowledge. And of course, we see many symbolisms of Rosicrucianism and Freemasonry, and of course, the symbol of the rose, which is there to show us the mystical union of God. Now we have verses from the Quran pertaining to each degree of Freemasonry. And this is just for the purpose of parallel comparison. So the first degree, which is the inner apprentice, you come from darkness to light. Chapter 2, verse 257, that God is the guardian protector of the believers. He brings them out of darkness and into the light. Do not fear any danger and walk your path. As you are told when you are initiated, that do not fear anything and continue to walk your path as long as you trust God and do not fear any danger. Second degree, fellowcraft, the knowledge of the arts and sciences. Chapter 58, verse 11. You who believe, if you are told to make room for one another in your meetings, then do so, and God will make room for you. And if you are told to rise up, do so. God will raise up by many degrees those of you who believe and those who have been given knowledge. He is fully aware of what you do. And this basically, when you are given the middle chamber lecture in the fellowcraft degree, you are basically told of God and everything implying God. So basically in Freemasonry, it's establishing that connection within our temple and our heart and mind with divinity, and also telling you to basically continuously strive to become a better person each day in your knowledge, in your thinking, in your knowing, in your doing, and all that you come to know yourself in between. Now we have the third degree, the Master Mason, chapter 21, verse 35. Every soul will taste death. We test you with bad and good as a trial, then to us you will be returned. And that's memento mori, where you are taught death and resurrection. And you are basically taught that your life, your human life, that you came out of your mother's womb with nothing. And when you get buried in the ground, you're also going to go back with nothing. Just like we recently seen the Sheikh of the UAE in the Middle East who died. He was the owner of the Burj Khalifa. He had millions of dollars and pounds and dinars, you name it, he had it. But now he's buried in the ground, from dust to dust, from ashes to ashes. And that is the lesson of the third degree, that it's reminding us that you're not going to take anything with you except the good that you did for yourself and others. And also, if for those that have Muslim brethren in their lodge, this is for those that have a specific verse of the volume of the sacred law you have to open for each degree in each meeting. I hope this is useful for you in some way. Now we have Al-Kashaf, the unveiling of the royal arch. This is the stage that the Sufis get to when he removes the veils and knows the glory and holiness of God. The Sufi's journey is at a conclusion when he comes to this gnosis and unity with his beloved. The Sufi who reaches this stage becomes clairvoyant and one with spirit. In Royal Arch, you also see that your true journey as a Master Mason continues beyond craft masonry. And that's why you are highly encouraged after you get raised to be exalted in Royal Arch Masonry, because the story is not yet finished. You see the holiness of the Lord and the removal of veils as you go from raised to exalted. So basically, it tells us that in this 3D reality that we're in, such as right now, we're interacting with each other in this 3D reality. There are many veils that the grand architect of the universe has put before us, so we cannot see many of the beings who are coexisting here with us peacefully. Like many people are talking about, I want to find the aliens, or I want to find these other beings. I want to find jinns and angels and jinns or aliens or whatever. And they're looking up at the sky. No, everything is right here, but everything is covered with the veils. And that's what the Sufi is teaching you, that God has put veils on everything. And in the Masonic comparison, you are taught the same, that yes, you do become raised to the sublime degree of a Master Mason, but you do not learn the truth until you become exalted and the veils are removed and you know the holiness of the Lord. Moving on. Now we have basically tasawwuf, the aspects of Sufism, the wearers of wool and the people of the bench. The Sufis are wearers of wool, suf, that exemplify the prophets and teachers of purity. The wool is also worn by Knights Templars. As you see in America, a lot of the Knights Templar, they have the wool on top of their hats. As the grandfather of the first Grand Master, Hugo de Payens, was a Moorish Sufi who initiated him in the mysteries. They are known as the people of the bench that were initiated into inner Islam, similar to our Christian brothers in the volume of the Sacred Law of the Holy Bible in Mark 4:11, where Christ initiates those in the inner mysteries while those on the outside were taught in parables by Muhammad. So those basically, to follow tasawwuf means good character and being aware of self and God. Everything is about the heart and purification of self. The true initiation basically happens in the heart. So if your heart is not in the right place, regardless of your rank or situation that you're in, you never really truly become a real initiate, regardless of your accolades, titles, or the numbers next to your name. This is the philosophy of Sufism and also the Masonic esoteric philosophy, that if your heart is not in the right place, then you never truly get initiated. For you to truly be initiated and the eye of providence sees everything, you have to be of a pure heart, a pure mind, and a pure soul in your thinking, knowing, doing, and understanding. Now we have the aspects of the 3 stages, the 3 degrees. The first stage is fighting the ego and coming to light, the hakikat, the truth, where you accept that I have to serve a purpose which is greater than myself. It's not always about me. And that's when you come to the brotherhood, whether it's Sufism or Masonry. Step 2, the tariqat, to unite with the grand architect of the universe. And that is when you become a Mason and you're brought from darkness to light, and you are given the tools and you are told in your life, continue to do the great things, trust God, and do not fear any danger. The third stage, marifa, the act of know thyself and know thy Lord. And that is when you are raised and you are basically taught the mortality of the human being, that life can be fragile. You can leave this earth at any time, and you must come to the full gnosis of God. Do not waste your time here on this earth, and make the best of what is given to you. Now we have the 4 worlds and the 4 realms of knowledge, the 4 veils. The first is matter, earth, water, air, fire, and ether, the aspect of knowing God and the world. So this is basically us here on this 3D reality, us interacting with each other right now. The second are the spiritual beings, jinns, angels, heaven and hell, cause and effect. So basically, this is telling us about as above, so below, like we have the square and the compasses that come together, as above, so below. So if the world right now is in chaos and there's a lot of conflict and war going on, that means those wars are going up in the heavens also, when the good and bad conflict with each other. And that is also reflected here on the bottom realms as well. And what happens is that in our lives, we're thinking about finding different life beings or different forms. And again, we are told, even in a lot of the volumes of the sacred law, is that when the grand architect of the universe created us, we created mankind in our image and in our likeness. So if you're looking for angels and jinns and other beings, they're all walking amongst you, some of them under the guise of human beings. So sometimes you just never know who you're dealing with. And this path teaches you is that when you come to the initiation of this path, you will have different beings that will come and test you and try you in Freemasonry to be duly tested and tried, to be considered a worthy brother. Number 3, the source of the lost word, the hidden tablet, the knowledge of spirit. That's where the Sufis believe the 3rd realm, which is where God's lost name, the ineffable name, is located. And that is a realm no one can access, except like the really high-ranking angels. So 4th, the realm of the grand architect of the universe, pure essence. God is the only reality. So the Sufis have this significance that tell you, when you see them whirling around, the whirling dervishes, they want to unite with their beloved, which is the grand architect. And they tell you that when God is referred to as the one true and living God, there is a special significance behind that, because everything is connected to that one being. So that being is the only reality that has no beginning and has no end, the Alpha and Omega. And all of us are connected and a part of that infinite simulation and these infinite avatars, experiencing ourselves, through each other, and becoming one in that gnosis. Now we have the aspect of Iman, Islam, and Ihsan, the 3 stages of realization. The first being Iman, belief, faith, secrecy, and full trust in the grand architect of the universe, which is the inner apprentice degree. The second, in Islam, submission, obedience, knowledge, and practice, to reflect on your growth and continue the pursuit of knowledge, which is fellowcraft. So the lessons of the first 2 degrees are secrecy and obedience. The third, Ihsan, a righteous, upright character and living a good life with the time you have been granted, a master mason, and you are taught that you have to die before you die. And what does it mean that you have to die before you die? The aspect of resurrection and seeing life through new eyes. That is basically teaching you that in this life, whether it's money, you live in a nice neighborhood, good home, good cars, big bank account, One day you're going to have to leave that behind. None of that is going to save you when the time comes, but accept the good that you did for yourself and others. And that philosophy is also signified. And most Freemasons, they always have a skull. And most people think of it as something malevolent, but no, that skull is there to remind you of your mortality. That's what that is there for. So all three stages, whether it's from the Sufi perspective or from the Masonic perspective, it must be honored fully, or you are just following mere rituals without any meaning, and inevitably leading to hypocrisy. And that can result in low membership. You must practice what you preach, otherwise it's all meaningless and wasted effort. There is a difference between a learning phase and an application phase of knowledge. Also, you need a guide and a mentor, no egoism or individualism. So even when you join the fraternity, you don't join just because you want to join. The path is actually choosing you in many ways. You are being called to the path, and you are chosen by basically a jury of your peers who deem you worthy. And a petition of prayer, meaning is you're telling the lodge, please accept my prayer to be amongst one of you. It means a lot more than just a mere application or a petition on a piece of paper. This is a prayer to become a part of that initiation. And you must realize that when Freemasonry is teaching you all of these aspects of learning, and it's telling you about the 24-inch gauge and divide your time, 8 hours for rest and refreshment, for your neighbors, for your vocation, for God, all those things. It's telling you a code of life, meaning if you are not applying that knowledge in your life, then you're not honoring your experiences. So there is a learning phase, which you have in Freemasonry, but then there's the application phase, meaning majority of your time is spent outside of the lodge room with your job, your home, your neighbors, your friends, and other places where you must exemplify your character at all times. It's a lot more than just learning something and just showing up at meetings once a month or 4 times a year. You have to truly embody that in how you treat yourself and others. Now, most people do not know, in terms of a Sufi and Masonic comparison, that the Prophet Muhammad, from the Islamic perspective, was the widow's son. He lost his father at a young age and was raised by his mother, a widow, till the age of 6. And when he married Khatija, the widow, at age 25. And one of the main teachings that, because the Sufis always refer back to as Muhammad, as in terms of a source to exemplify, I have come to perfect the adab, character of mankind. And during that time, he established religious and racial freedom with his decrees, dealing of Hazrat Bilal, covenants with the monks of St. Catherine Monastery, and the Constitution of Medina, which gave rights to Jews and Christians, who at that time were being persecuted by the Arab pagan tribes. And that also was followed by Saladin, who followed this and protected Jews and Christians and their places of worship and their relics in the Holy Land. He instructed mankind to become one ummah, community, and be on the level, like we are all on the level. We're all part of that ummah, as Freemasonry teaches us to be. And he highly instructs to take care of widows and orphans. And Freemasonry also stresses that very much. Even here in Pennsylvania, where I'm at, the current Grand Master's program of charity is to take care of widows and orphans. So that is signified, to take care of widows and orphans, to love and respect each other, to uplift each other, to be true Knights Templars, the defenders of the faiths, to defend each other and our right to exist. Now, my brothers and sisters, we have the all-seeing grand architect of the universe, the 99 names of God. The 100th name is missing. One of the names out of the 99 names is Al-Basir, the all-seeing. And Al-Basir is, he's aware of the deeds done in darkness. So in this life, as Freemasonry teaches us, is that you're always observance. You're always under observance under the grand architect of the universe. So always live your life in high Masonic character in your dealings with self and others. And in Islam, Al-Basir is always watching you. And that is always referred to, especially a story of the Sheikh and his students. When the Sheikh had 3 students, and he gave each of them an animal to kill. One took it in the forest and killed the animal. The other took it in his home and he killed the animal. The third student came back to him and said, I cannot kill this animal. He said, I went to my home, God was watching me. I went to the jungle, God was watching me. I went to my basement in my home, God was watching me. So I could not kill this animal. So everywhere you go, know that Sufi Masonic comparison in between, that God is always watching you, and you must always exemplify yourself to the highest character. Now we have the brethren of the white cloth, equally divested and on the level. Ihram, resembling Hiram. So this white cloth, this basically represents the innocence of the lambskin of a master mason, meaning if I'm wearing the apron of a master mason, if I see another master mason wearing the same apron, I'm going to greet him as my brother and offer him friendship, brotherhood, and cordiality. I'm not going to ask him anything else more than that, because we're all equal and on the level. And in Mecca, you also wear this white cloth of innocence, which all signifies your death, that on your day of death, this is what you're going to be covered with. And also it teaches you that no matter what your racial background is, what your occupation is, what your money is, it does not matter. You're equally divested. So they're not wearing anything under that white cloth. It's just that white cloth, which symbolizes purity and brotherhood. And that is what changed the life of Malcolm X, because Malcolm X, he in America, especially with what's been going on here with the recent incidents, he saw when he went over there that there was no hatred of any kind between whites and blacks or Arabs or Muslims. Everyone was equal. And that is what our Masonic brotherhood exemplifies as well, that we all in reality, we become Hiram Abiff, and we love and uplift each other as brothers and sisters of the craft. Now we have the aspect of being on the level. Most Masonic buildings you go to and most places you go to, on the altar, they will represent all volumes of sacred laws, the Bible, the Old Testament, the Quran, the Gita, everything. And the Sufis referred to as basically being on the level, meaning from the scripture, it says that those who believe, whether it's the Quran, those who follow the Jewish scriptures, the Christians, the Sabians, any who believe in God in the last day and work righteousness shall have their reward with God. On them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. So again, just like how the entered apprentice degree, the Sufis are also telling you to trust God and do not fear any danger. And also that we're all brothers and sisters on the level, meaning it's not about your God or my God, or if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell. It's about uplifting each other as brothers and sisters of the craft on this journey that we're in. And that is also exemplified in the Masonic Brotherhood. When you go inside of the lodge, you will see on the altar all volumes of sacred laws displayed. And also it refers to that the believers are but one brotherhood. Make peace between your two brothers and be mindful of God so that you may be given mercy, which is equivalent of Psalms 133 in the Holy Bible of the volume of sacred law, which tells us, behold, how good it is for brethren to dwell in unity, which is also exemplified by many brethren in Freemasonry. Now we have the cable tow, unity and charity, helping each other if within your capability to do so. So my brothers and sisters, it tells us from the Sufi perspective, from chapter 3, verse 103, hold fast together to the cable of God and be not divided. Remember that the blessing that God bestowed upon you, you were once enemies, then he brought your hearts together so that through his blessing you became brothers. And that teaches us that Masonry, my brothers and sisters, unites men of every country and of every religion, and conciliates true friendship among those who might otherwise have remained at a perpetual distance. So the beauty of Freemasonry is that where else in the world can we all come together and I can call a Jewish man, a Hindu man, a Christian man, my brother, and embrace each other as such and be an example to humanity that if we can do this, then why can't you? And it's about becoming the brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God, as Freemasonry teaches us to. And also to see that if there's anything within your capability to do so within the length of your cable tow, you are free to assist a brother in need without jeopardizing yourself or your family. That is your duty to do so. Now we have the proper vetting, recommendation and mentoring, tarbiyat, prayer of petition. You have to be truly about it for you to gain anything. If you join Freemasonry and it tells you if you're there for any ill motives, if you're there for any mercenary or any other improper motive, eventually the eye of providence separates the wheat from the chaff. You eventually will find your exit from Freemasonry because your heart was never truly in the right place. Proper recommendation of the seeker is needed, or the sheikh, worshipful master, and the proposer, which is the recommender, have to deal with spiritual consequences from God. The seeker must be of a pure heart, intent, and soul. Once initiated, the seeker must be carefully mentored and counseled. And that even in Freemasonry, we have the aspects of being assigned a mentor. And as we see on the bottom, we see the Sufi and Masonic comparison of the brothers sitting with their worshipful master and being mentored and being taught the work. And on the right side, we have the worshipful master with the new brother mentoring him. So you have to be mentored and counseled carefully. Quality over quantity. Uplift the seeker's heart so he can do for others. So what happens when there's an issue of some kind? What's the first thing that people mentioned? Who is the proposer for this brother when they try to find out when an issue of some kind has been caused? So in Sufism, it's the same thing. You have to be properly vetted and you have to be properly known. Your character has to be tested for you to be initiated. Otherwise, the sheikh himself has to deal with consequences from God. So that is very, very serious. Now we have the aspect of the Islamic lunar cycles and the Masonic moonlight lodges, lodges on the moon, the Sufi and Masonic comparison. And it was not uncommon for Masonic lodges to meet at the full moon cycle. This is the origin of the tradition. In some jurisdictions that a lunar month was the minimum time between degrees. In the Sufi Islamic perspective, the lunar months are also followed for practices, holidays, observances, ceremonies, and there are still lodges that follow this. I believe in America, it's the Grand Lodge of Ohio and the Grand Lodge of California that still have Masonic moonlight lodges. And many Masonic events take place when the moon is out during the evenings, 7:30 and above. And the Islamic lunar cycles usually follow a 33-year cycle. So that also sounds familiar from a Masonic perspective. So whether it's Eid or Ramadan, or whether you are getting another degree in your Sufi initiatic mysteries or Masonic initiatic mysteries, there's always that period between the lunar months that is there to signify the different change and the aspects of initiation. Now we move on to the Ikhwan Al-Safa, the Freemasons of Basra. And these are pre-1717 Freemasons of Iraq. And they are referred to in Mackey's Masonic Encyclopedia, number 2, page 601. Above, the painting that resembles the three lights, the sun, the moon, and the sheikh, the worshipful master. And they were divided into 4 ranks. The first one was the craftsman, where you had to be at least a minimum age of 15 years old. The second stage were the leaders, where you had to be 30 and above to be considered a leader. Now you had the kings, the third stage, which is you have to be at least 40 years and above to be a part of that rank. And the fourth stage were the prophets and philosophers, which is 50 years and above. And they basically taught the esoteric and occult knowledge with their 52 epistles, influenced Christian Rosencreutz and the Templars pre-1717. So when the Templars were studying with the assassins and the different Sufi groups, including their encounter with Christian Rosencreutz, they all came encountered with the Ikhwan al-Safa, who were known as the Brethren of Purity. And as we see, their principles of morality, veiled in allegory, and the Sufi initiatic mysteries, which welcomed all brothers and sisters of a good report. Didn't matter what your race and religion was, as long as you were there on your free will and accord, you were there to become better, become one with God. That door was always open for you. All you had to do was knock and it will be opened. Now we have the aspects of the 3 lights, the sun, the moon, and the sheikh, worshipful master. Now here on the left side, we see the Bektashi Sufi order. And also we see how the Bektashi Sufis are resembling the sun, the moon, and the worshipful master, the 3 lights. So in your lodge, the highest authority in your lodge is the worshipful master, because he is there in the East, basically as a representation of the divine. It's not about And that's where people get confused. They think when you call somebody a worshipful master, it means you're worshiping him. That is not true. Worshipful master is one who is full of worship, one who has labored from the south to the west to the east, from the different stations of the lodge to come to the east, from darkness to light. And he is there representing the high authority, just like how the Sheikh in Sufism, you are taught to submit to the will of the Sheikh, because everything is aspects of those great lights. And the sun, the moon, and the worshipful master are the three triune selves of God that are there to teach you from right to wrong. So on the Sufi side, we see that in the Bektashis, signified on the left. And on the right, we see the Masonic significance of it. Here, my brothers and sisters, we have the pledge of the tree, the acacia tree, or the acacia plant, which is very much acknowledged in Freemasonry. So the Sufis regard the acacia tree as one that is of a heavenly tree that is there to basically bless you if you give reverence to it. So the aspects in Sufism, it tells you that God was pleased with the believers when they were pledging allegiance with you by placing their hands in your hands under the tree, which is in Surah 48, verse 18. In Freemasonry, when you take each other's hand, take me as I take you. The companions, brethren of Muhammad, the widow's son, taking the oath of Rizwan under the acacia tree. This pleased God. The companions were rewarded with eternal paradise, a tree of heaven, the acacia tree, native to desert areas of the Islamic world. In Freemasonry, the acacia tree symbolized the immortality of the soul, that the master mason will always live on, and the sprig of the acacia tree that is always there at the grave of every master mason and the grave of Hiram Abif, to signify that when you die from this life, that doesn't mean it's the end. Your journey continues into other levels and other forms of existence. Same in Freemasonry, you're taught about the celestial Grand Lodge above, which is where your life carries you on. So the end of this life doesn't mean that it's the end. It's more than that. Just like as you're taught in Master Mason through Royal Arch. So same thing, we come back to the rite of circumambulation. What happens to the Mason when he joins the lodge? He's given the rite of circumambulation around the three great pillars, equivalent of the three great lights, the perfect ashlar stone, and you walk around it in the rite of circumambulation. Same thing in the Sufi Islamic perspective. Everyone's on the level, they're equally divested. You have the perfect ashlar stone Kaaba, the house and temple of God, with the cornerstone not made with hands, the house not made with hands, and the pillars representing strength, beauty, and wisdom of the Masonic tracing board and signifying ascending to the heavens of Jacob's ladder. And you're walking around it in a circular fashion, the rite of circumambulation, to signify your union with God and to detach from this world. Now, my brothers and sisters, we have the magic carpet, which is the Islamic prayer rug, the oblong square, meaning you are the temple. So when you pray on the Islamic rug, you have to remove your shoes, for the ground that you are walking on is holy ground. Same thing before you go into a mosque. Outside of the mosque, you'll see piles of shoes everywhere, because that you're walking on holy ground, you have to remove your shoes. Same with the Masonic initiatic experience, as many of you have known. So even on the Islamic prayer rug, you see the oblong square, the shape of it. You have the perfect ashlar stone of the Kaaba, the pillars, the temples, the archways. And if you look at many of the Western cartoons and movies like Aladdin and other things, they're always talking about the magic carpet. This is the magic carpet. And what does it mean when you fly higher into higher dimensions? That means prayer and meditation. When you're focusing on prayer and meditation, that is when the magic carpet will elevate you to higher realms. And a continuous and having the discipline of prayer and meditation, it will be there to uplift you. Just like in the Masonic lodges, you have the chaplain who is there to invoke the prayers and blessings of the grand architect of the universe. The lodge cannot start if there is no chaplain there to invoke the prayer. So that is ultimately it. It all comes down to prayer. Now we have the aspect of the Islamic and Masonic connection to America, Thomas Jefferson's Quran and other things. Now America and its founding fathers were created by Masonic forefathers. And there was that Islamic influence that was there. As we see on the bottom left, you have the statue of Muhammad, which is outside of the United States Supreme Court, signifying him and what the Sufis revere him as a great lawgiver. On the bottom right, you have the letter from George Washington to Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the Sultan of Morocco. And after America had gained its independence, it was Morocco, a Muslim country, who had first recognized them. And on the top left, you have the Islamic Shriners. And even in America, you have Masonic groups such as the Grotto, the Shriners, that have Sufi Islamic influence. And those that join the Shriners or Grotto, you will see that. And also on the left-hand side, you have the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii from the 15th century, 200 years before America even existed, where you have two dark-skinned Moors wearing the red fez, or the red fez of the Shriners, holding the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Now, most people in America don't know that out of all of the 50 states, there's only one state every September that has a national holiday of Islam Day, and that is Hawaii. And it's because of that significance, because their last king was an Islamic Shriner and the other influences that were there. On the top right, you have Jamal al-Afghani, who was a Sufi master, and he was a Freemason as well. And he also had the Brotherhood of Luxor, which they were trying to gain immortality of the soul. He was also the mentor and teacher of Madame Blavatsky, who had founded the Theosophy Society. And Jamal al-Afghani had also found his way to America in the early 1900s when he taught and mentored the parents of the Moorish Science Temple noble Drew Ali. He taught his parents. And in there, basically, he laid the seeds and the foundation for the first Islamic presence to be established in America. So that is coming from a Sufi Mason. Here we see the aspects of Sufi influence and Sufi and Islamic influence upon Masonic architecture. On the left-hand side is the King Faisal Masjid, or Faisal Mosque in Islamabad, which was designed by a Turkish Masonic brother from Turkey, Vedat Doloke, who was instructed to make a mosque to signify God and to give glory to God. And as you see from the aspect of the square and the compasses, the pillars, and how everything is there resembling Masonic significance at this mosque. On the right-hand side, we have the Oriental Room in the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, which signified the time the Moors were in Italy and in Spain, and they were bringing Europe out of the Dark Ages with many of the knowledge that the Muslim scholars had translated, and how many of those initiatic schools were there learning from each other. So we see that here in the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania as well. And if you look above the chair of the master, in Arabic, it's inscribed, La ilaha illallah, that only God is perfect, or there is no God but God. So, and this is the room where I was exalted to be a Royal Archmason. So it had a very special significance for me to be exalted from Master Mason to a Royal Archmason in the Oriental Room in the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, which has Sufi and Islamic influences upon its layout. Of course, now you have the pillars, the Islamic principles and the Islamic pillars. And basically you have to do jihad with yourself, honoring the pillars: Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, and Composite. The first pillar, Shahada, to declare your faith in God. In Freemasonry, you cannot join unless you believe in a supreme being. Salat, which is prayer. You cannot participate in Masonic meetings unless there's a chaplain involved and there are prayers given to the Grand Architect of the universe. Which is fasting. And that's basically to live your life in moderation, to not indulge yourself, and to circumscribe your desires and live your life within due bounds. Fourth pillar being Hajj, pilgrimage, to be the Saliq, or traveling man. So for those that are financially capable to do so, it's your duty and obligation to go to the holy city of Mecca in the East to do that pilgrimage. Same thing in Freemasonry. If you're financially capable to do so, then you join. Now you have M, which is zakat, almsgiving. What happens at every Masonic meeting? You're there to give alms. They're there to collect charity. And if you go to the mosque every Friday or Sufi prayers every Friday, you will see the man going around with the envelope and he's collecting money from everyone. Same thing happens in Freemasonry when you go to the lodge meetings. There will be the brother during the meeting going around and collecting alms to give to the less fortunate. Now we have the relation between Richard and Saladin. Most people do not know that Saladin and Richard the Lionheart were Masonic brothers. And every time they saw each other, they assisted each other and they tried to spare each other's life as much as they could. And this happened when Saladin was sick or Richard was sick and vice versa. They helped each other. And this goes back to the American Civil War, when opposite sides, brothers would find each other, they would spare each other's lives. You would have this significance take place in the world wars when brothers of opposite sides, they would respect their country and their mission, but if they identified a brother, they would spare their lives. And there have even been occasions where those of opposite sides have sat together in lodge. And we see that example today with the aspects of Russia and Ukraine, where we have brothers on opposite sides who are in conflict with each other, but when they see each other, they would love and respect each other without any animosity whatsoever. So the same implies with Richard and Saladin, that our brotherhood, regardless of what title or affiliation you have, it teaches us to be respectful and kind to one another, especially if we find a brother in distress. And basically, the teachings come down to death. You have to die before you die, the ultimate fate. That's the third degree. That every living being shall taste death, and we shall subject you to ill and good by way of trial. And to us shall all of you be eventually sent back, which is the Sufi teachings that every day, each breath you draw is bringing you closer and closer to death, the Masonic hourglass, where you have to live respected and die regretted, as our teachings teach us. And that is ultimately it. You have to make good use of the best life that has been given to you without compromising your integrity, your character, or your nature in any way. Now we have the aspect of the Sufis in Istanbul, 15th century, the arts and sciences, the 7 liberal arts. And this painting predates 1717, where in Freemasonry, we are taught rhetoric, grammar, astronomy, geometry, arithmetic, music, logic, and rhetoric. And we see in this Masonic painting, you see the brothers holding the square and the compasses, the hourglass, a lot of the stars, they have Arabic names. And they were taught to basically be the lovers of arts and sciences and pass that knowledge on, as we saw in the halls of Andalusia, in Moorish Spain, in Moorish Italy. Even Hugo de Pins, whose grandfather was a Moorish Sufi, he was also associated with the Pagani tribe in Italy. And if you see the emblem of the Pagani tribe, you will see the symbols of the 3 Moors on there. So it all comes down to knowledge and upliftment of self and humanity. And as Rumi says, every moment I shape my destiny with a chisel. I am the carpenter of my own soul. So you have been given the tools, and if you fail to not integrate that in your life and your teachings, then you're not doing a big justice to the teachings that are there for you. So thank you for enjoying my presentation, which was Sufism and Masonic Comparisons Part 2. If any questions or comments, please email me at salmansheikh911@gmail.com. All images used were retrieved from public domain searches and are the rightful properties of their own respectful owners. The images used in this video are for the purpose of nonprofit awareness and education, which is protected under the copyright laws of fair use. All my presentations or videos are for nonprofit. Thank you, and all rights reserved. Now back to Brother Hasu for the Q&A. I believe you're on mute, brother. I can't hear you.
Well, Brother Salman,
Oh, there it is.
so, as I say, the fruit tastes sweeter the second time round. I heard this presentation the first time, and it still is fascinating. There's a lot of work you're putting into it. You've done your research, you've done your work, and the idea of thinking comes forward. However,
Yep.
you
And
think,
brother,
whichever.
so since you're in England, I want to show you something special while my screen is being shared.
Okay.
So Prince Charles, he's visiting Cyprus this weekend, and Prince Charles has a very special relation with the Naqshbandi order, which is an order that I am also a part of, the Sufi order. And we see Prince Charles here meeting with the leader of the Naqshbandi, Sheikh Kabani. And I believe he's going to meet him again this weekend in Cyprus when he visits. So I wanted to show you that also.
Great, great. For everything they say about royalty and royal family, he is a very profound man, and you wish he was a Freemason at times, because he would fit in well. But yes, great. Salman, as usual, as I said, you brought your profound beliefs, and you connected them with the idea of what we consider to be Freemasonry. And in a way, yes, that if you lead one path, then you'll find the other path. There's always light. And however you follow that path is entirely up to you. But as long as you're searching for that light, whatever you want to put, whatever you want to think, however you want to do it, but as long as you look at it in a simple way, that it is the same light at the end of the path, whichever path you take, and follow that path, and that light will shine for you. The light doesn't deny anyone a right to come to it.
Of course.
I think at times it is our own obstinate nature that we think we know it, and we know how to get there, but maybe it is not. And maybe as brothers, sisters, we have found a path that we can all unite and enforce each other and walk together, and maybe reach the light more quickly than anything else. Well, Brother Salman, thank you very much for that. I'm sure there are questions. There are questions in the chat, and I'm sure there are others who wish to make comments or question or whatever. Please raise your hand. Brother Salman will be delighted to answer your questions, address your comments, or share your thoughts. Okay, so I can't see any raised hands, but Caleb, you're there. Why don't you ask your questions yourself if you are able to? Otherwise, I'll have to read them. Caleb, you may be on YouTube. Sorry. Okay. Caleb is asking a couple of questions. Please forgive me, because as you may realize, I'm partially sighted, so it takes me a bit of time to get to the point where the comments are. First of all, he greets you, Assalamu alaikum, and thanks you for your presentation. And he's got a couple of questions. The first one being, what sources did you use to show the Sufi through line to Christian Rosencrantz?
Well, that one, Brother Caleb, first, wa alaikum assalam, and thank you for your love. And I'm glad you're here for the second part as well. I know you were here in January as well. So the aspect of Brother Christian Rosencrantz being in the Holy Land, it showed that basically that everyone was in this divine knowledge together, working as one. Now, the purpose of this presentation was not to imply that Freemasonry comes from Sufism or Islam. It shows you the universality of this order, how beautiful this brotherhood is, whether you look in Hindu Vedic traditions, you look at Buddhist teachings, Christian esoteric teachings, Rosicrucianism. Every path has that universality where they're all teaching you the divine order, principle, and justice. Even in the teachings of Ma'at that I did recently, which go all the way back to ancient Egypt and predate many of the religions and groups. So that was basically there to show that everyone was kind of influencing each other and learning from each other. And you can look this up, how many of Christian Rosencrantz's journeys involved with him spending time and studying in North Africa and different parts of the Middle East, which inevitably you do encounter Sufis if you're on that path. So the aspects of Effendis and Beys and Pashas, they signify those that are like of a royal lineage. So if you go to, let's say, Istanbul in Turkey, or the time of the Ottomans, when they referred to each other as Effendi or Bey or Pashas, there were those that were of a royal lineage or a royal line of some kind. And also, yes, in your last question, which is there a parallel in Arabic or Islam with the idea of Adam or the original man? So yeah, basically in the Islamic perspective, it tells you of Adam as being this being who fell from heaven after basically they had sinned in the Garden of Eden. But Adam was basically forgiven. There was the aspect of forgiveness. And then Adam was told that you have to basically follow your path and glorify God and teach that to yourself and to your lineage. And that's why the Sufis, they refer to each other as the sons of Adam, that the greatest gift that the sons of Adam were taught was to love each other. So the greatest gift that you can learn from Adam is love. Love is the only reality. Love is the only answer. Right now, the world is going through a very pivotal time right now. And it's the same everywhere, like Brother Hasu said, whether you're here in America or UK or other countries, everyone's going through the same trials and tribulations right now. So in the Sufi tradition, you have to refer back to Adam to come back to that original state of loving each other. I will continue to labor towards that, and I hope I can see that in my lifetime and encountering brothers like yourself, Brother Hasu, in my journey, which have helped me. And I hope my brother Caleb, I was able to answer your questions.
Brother Salman, you saved my eyes from trying to read the next two questions. Thank you, bless you for that. A couple of things that fascinated when you said something was when you early on. I'm just paraphrasing it. Please forgive me if I'm wrong in that. When you talked about the path to God, and you talked about the regular grand lodges as such, that we Masonically follow the same path. We have one idea of masonry, which is the regular masonry. Now, in our forum, and I'm playing the devil's advocate for those who come from constitutions and parts of masonry which are not inverted commas recognized. Though they practice the same masonry as us, they practice the same rituals. We've got Denise, who is a lady mason. How do you sort of maybe think again about the same thing instead of saying that as Freemasons, only the regular path of a Grand Lord, because it's recognized, is the right? Because from my simple understanding, our beautiful Creator has never, in fact, he keeps himself very open to every path and everyone, and blesses everyone who looks for the path, rather than saying, no, that's not the right path.
You know, it's interesting, Brother Hasu, you bring this up, because the Fatimiyya Sufi order that I'm a part of is giving reverence to the divine feminine, Fatima al-Zahra, who is the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad. And it has said that God would not have created Imam Ali, who the Sufis regard Ali as very highly. He would not have created Ali or Muhammad if it was not for Fatima. And Fatima is referred to as the mother of her father, meaning God, we refer to God because we grew up in a patriarchal society. So many Sufis refer to God and their love for Allah or God as a she, that they're in love. They're in love with their beloved. They're in love with their the mother goddess. So that is the truth. And even in Sufism, you have many orders that are led by female sheikhs. They're referred to as sheikhas. So it tells you that heaven lies at the feet of your mother, where even in the Hindu tradition, we touch the feet of your mother before you do anything to signify that everything comes from that divine mother.
And I think that is the sad part of modern society, that women are still considered to be less equal or less capable. And I think, it's a shame to see that even today, when we talk of knowledge, understanding, and thinking, that first and foremost, we must appreciate the 50% of the world's population as equal to us, capable, and probably even more capable than some of us, I must say. But the other thing was very interesting, is just a comment, that when you talked about the full moon, and in Masonry, the full moon, especially in the English Constitution, came about for a very simple reason. Because that was the only nights where there was light on the highways, and if you're traveling in a carriage, you didn't want to be stopped by the highwaymen. So in a way, that was a sort of the practical element of it, rather than but obviously You mentioned the way that we also follow the same tradition of the lunar cycles rather than the solar. So, everything is based around the lunar calendar, which is also very interesting because it shows the ancient nature of our traditions, that those ancient traditions still carry on and recognize the same symbolism
Mhm.
regardless of however you go. Yeah, and also the other thing was the acacia tree, and that's very interesting as well because acacia is also known as the holy tree because it also is some of the acacias produce DMT,
Yeah.
which is used as a means to get closer to your creator. Because
Yes.
it makes your mind completely empty of everything that surrounds you, all the burdens that you carry, and all those things that are stopping you from looking at the shining light that the path is leading to. So, it's my small observation, but well done, well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Hassan.
Brethren, please, anyone else who has any comments, questions, just unmute yourselves. You're overawed them. They're all silent, Salman. Brethren, if there's no other questions, nothing else, as Brother Salman said, he's available for any, if you want to contact him directly, or if you want to chat about anything that is presented today, please do so, because knowledge doesn't belong to anyone. Stefan, yes, unmute yourself. Go on, go ahead. Yes, sorry, I should have unmuted you. I should have unmuted all of you before. My
Okay,
fault.
thank
Go
you.
on.
All right, okay. Not for, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, Brother Salman, thank you again. I am fascinated by your approach, by the manner you shed light on these issues differently, because we all have some level of ignorance and some level of prejudice in more ways than one, and no matter how much we challenge ourselves, there is always more left to do in this sense, in order to achieve a better understanding. So 1,000 thanks is not enough. Um, you have just, both of you now, raised a very interesting issue. The fact of these three monotheistic religions being so hostile in more ways than one to the female role. Were I to take Christian faith, we have the issue of Mary Magdalene, the character assassination of Mary Magdalene by mistake or otherwise or intention. How do you see? You have already mentioned some positive aspects. Deliberation or the balancing of genders in religion coming from your Sufi world now, because I would love to see you elaborate more on that, considering the approach you have taken. Thank you. Can't he? Brother Hasso, I think you have to unmute him.
Oh, he can unmute himself.
Can he? Okay.
Oh, there he. I apologize. Let me unmute everyone. No, let him get to answer first.
If you do not unmute us, we shall turn to sign language.
And we may be more educated. Go on, Salman.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you,
right.
brothers.
Thank you, Brother Stephen. Thank you very much. And I appreciate your kind words that you have given me. I always appreciate it for the 3 presentations that I have done for Sapere Aude, and hopefully more in the future, that you have always been there in attendance supporting me. And honestly, we have to look at all religion is teaching you the aspects of the divine feminine, whether it's in Christianity for Mary Magdalene, in Islam for Fatima and other figures that are there. And other figures also have feminine figures, but we have to realize that what we see in the Islamic world, it's not basically Islam being followed, it's the culture that gets mixed with Islam. So anything that degrades the woman in the Sufi Islamic perspective is against Islam. So let's say there's something going on in Pakistan or Afghanistan where the woman is being forced against her will That's the cultural tribal mindset that they're mixing with their religion. So there's a difference between an Islamic crime and a cultural crime. So in the aspects of Islam, it doesn't tell you to do the female genital mutilation or to force a woman to marry someone against her will. The Islamic Sufi perspective tells you that the woman has the right to choose her husband, to divorce her husband, to inherit property, to do business, to be in leadership roles, so many things. But again, the ineffable nature of this reality that we're in, where people are going to be people. Even in the world of Freemasonry, we see that our sisters are still not fully respected, even though we're on this path of love, light, and happiness. So we need to continue to labor for that change, my brother Stephen, whether it's in America, in France, in Pakistan, in Freemasonry, wherever women are still not being given their due role, we have to continue to labor towards that. That's because Freemasons are the guardians of this realm, and they have to take the responsibility to leave a better world where if a Freemason has a daughter that he loves very much and she grows up to be a part of the same institution her father was in, and they tell her no, not because on the basis of her character, but just because she's a woman, what is the crime in that? So we must continue to strive for a better world. And I myself, I speak out against the cultural ignorance that I see in Pakistani communities and cultures. And I tell them, this is not what you're supposed to do. Your religion is not telling you to treat women this way. It's you and the tribal mindset that you have. You have to educate yourselves. And that goes for us same. Anywhere where even in America right now, men and women are against each other on so many issues. So it's a universal labor, my brother. Every culture, every climate group has their own issues they need to deal with.
But let me unmute mute you all for a moment, and I'll mute. Okay, I think you should be able to unmute yourselves now. Can you unmute? Can you unmute yourself, Salman? Oh, now. Okay, I should do the trick now. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourselves.
Thank you. Thank you. Brother
Yeah.
Salman, what you say even reminds me of the issue of the novel Unorthodox when it comes to Jewish women in Wilhelmsville, and the story which has found itself on screen, basically, a woman living Orthodox Jewish life to seek a free life in Berlin, and with the consequence of her being chased back into the Wilhelmsville world, which was unsuccessful. All right, this is a true story. You can look up the film for those of you who do not know it, and it's amazing in this sense. That is why we mentioned the three monotheistic religions and not just two. So, for fairness' sake, these aspects you mentioned, they are in all the structures, and perhaps they are what generates gender violence in our culture, which is such a big problem from east to west. So hopefully, with thanks to this knowledge, emancipation in all levels, even in Freemasonry, will become will stand on a true and new pedestal. Perhaps that would be a great contribution which could be done towards society.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother Stephen. And I must add one more thing. You know, it's very beautiful that you mentioned that. And another purpose of my presentation is in Islamic countries, Freemasonry is banned because they believe the aspect of Freemasonry being associated with devil worship. So another purpose of my presentation is to show my Islamic brothers and those in Islamic communities that Freemasonry is not against anyone or anything. It's actually there to promote the wellness of mankind, and it's not there, and it doesn't have any agenda. Same thing with many Masonic brethren who might have had a misconception about Sufism or Islam. So I'm hoping with these presentations that I have did on Sapere Aude, I've been able to bridge the gap between the Islamic world and Freemasonry. And I hope one day I can continue to labor towards not only women being treated properly, but seeing those bans in those Islamic countries being reversed on Freemasonry. Because if Freemasonry was there, I believe those places would prosper very much. As we see in Turkey being an Islamic country where Freemasonry is there.
That would indeed be a key to righteousness.
Yeah.
But interesting you mentioned Iraq and Basra, when Masonry was very much in the Middle East. You had Masons who were Muslims, you had Masons who were Hindus, you had Sikhs, and you see the photographs of them sitting outside the temple. So it was a very much of these were Muslim countries. Masonry was practiced by everyone who lived there, traded there, or had connections. So it had its golden age, and hopefully we get back to that golden age of Masonry where we truly leave everything outside and come in and think, and then take it out again. I think that's the important thing. We come in, leave everything outside, come in, educate ourselves, and go out and spread the good news. Thomas, you wanted to say something. I think you had a message. You put some message. Would you like to unmute and make your comments, Thomas? No, it's quite happy to put his comment in the chat. I can read that. There you go. He's unmuted.
Brother Hasu, greetings to you, Brother Hasu. Peace and blessings to you, Brother Salam, and everyone present. My question, Brother Hasu, to Brother Salam was rooted in the question I thought I read previously, or a comment that I read previously, in that one of the participants was asking or stating that he had the Quran, but could not find certain verses within the Quran. My take on his question was that he was trying to give a parable verse in the Quran with that of the King James version of the Holy Bible that is used on the altar, meaning that if he, as you mentioned, there was Masonry in a lot of the Islamic states, what were the parable verses in the Quran to the first, second, and third degrees in Freemasonry? If that is something that could be shared or something that is known, could that be shared with those of us in the group here?
Oh, sure, my brother. Thank you, Brother Thomas. I appreciate your love and your brotherhood, and what you have shared with me. I will definitely share that with you on what you are implying. And that one verse which I basically equaled to the Holy Bible was from Surah 49, verse 10, which tells you that the believers are but one brotherhood, meaning that for us to come together, we have to be believers. As in Freemasonry, you cannot join if you don't believe in a supreme being. And we are all one brotherhood, and we have to make peace between one another so God can have mercy on us. And that's the same equivalent to the Holy Bible that many Masons like to use, that behold, how good it is for brethren to dwell in unity, which is in Psalms 133. And as to answer your question about the verses from the Quran, which are equivalent to each degree, I'll start with the Inner Apprentice, which is darkness to light. And that is Surah 2, chapter 2, verse 257, that God is the guardian, protector of the believers, and he brings them out of darkness and into the light, which is implying do not fear any danger and walk your path. The second degree fellowcraft, it's Surah 58 or chapter 58, verse 11. You who believe, if you are told to make room for one another in your meetings, then do so, and God will make room for you. And if you are told to rise up like you rise up in Masonic meetings, do so. God will raise up by many degrees those of you who believe and those of who have been given knowledge. And just like in the second degree, you're taught to be a lover of the arts and sciences. He's fully aware of what you do in reference to the middle chamber. The third degree, which is the Master Mason, is chapter 21, Surah 21, or verse 35. Every soul will taste death. We test you with bad and good as a trial. Then unto us you will all be returned. And it's equivalent to Freemasonry, where you're told about that one day you will die. You have to live respected and die regretted, and just live a good, clean life. And I hope I was able to answer your questions, Brother Thomas.
You did, and I hope that that was a question that others had, and you were able to answer or satisfy their curiosities as well. Um, Given that, as you stated, more than just the Holy Bible, because that came to Western society, being the religion that came here um, through those from Europe. So the Holy Bible is usually what's seen on the altars, but you have the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, et cetera, et cetera. But not everyone actually tries to find out what are the corresponding verses if they're truly seeking that part of the liberal arts or the sciences. I've asked several individuals, but was never able to get that answer. Okay. So I do appreciate your giving that to me. I will certainly share it with those of my lodge. I became worshipful master last year, and any teachings that I'm able to share, I love to share it with them, and probe things with them.
Thank you, Brother Thomas. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Brother Thomas. I think that is the whole idea of these forums and these meetings, to share ideas and to share them not only within ourselves, but then to pass them on to other brothers who can then pass it on. So we create a better education system amongst everyone, rather than keeping quiet and saying, "Oh well, I heard a lecture and that was it. Thank you. Bye bye."
Yeah.
So,
Brother Salman, if I may.
Yes, brother.
You mentioned the pilgrimage, the Hajj, and you went into detail there, but I'd like you to go slightly deeper. What for you is the concept of pilgrimage? And I'll tell you why I'm asking very soon. Brother Hasso is here. He knows I am to deliver a talk about the Christian pilgrimage, the way of St. James, which is done in the north of Spain, which was basically connected to Templar churches, turned into the hands of the Knights of St. John eventually when Templars were abolished. And you have talked beautifully about Templars now. How do you see, what potential do you see in the faith, in Islamic faith, of such a pilgrimage? I know from childhood stories, then eventually they would stone the devil. In my Maltese culture, there is something known as min zmin zamzam, and that's my language. When something has happened a long time ago, it's from zmin zamzam. All of a sudden, we have the zamzam, which means zom, hold, and that still is in our language.
Yes.
Zamzam is in the news now. It's been prohibited to give water to take home from the well of Zamzam in pilgrimage. This was being mentioned today. I don't know why. I wish I knew. But how would you encapsulate the concept of pilgrimage?
Well, the pilgrimage, my brother, is basically in the Masonic aspect when you are brought in as an entered apprentice and you are brought from darkness to light, and you go through your own rite of circumambulation like you do at the Kaaba, going around in a circular fashion at the altar. And it shows you how your life basically changes from the profane world into your Masonic initiation, where you go from EA, FC, MM, then you go from junior warden, senior warden, worshipful master. Who you were at the time your petition was submitted is not the same person you are going to be when you're a past master or an immediate past master. Your whole outlook on Masonry and the world will totally be different. The same thing with the pilgrimage at the Kaaba. When you strip yourselves of all metallic substances and monies and valuables, it shows you that it's not your money and wealth that will buy your way into the graces of God and brotherhood, but it's the character of your heart and your individuality that will uphold you and uplift you and raise you and exalt you. And that's when you go around in the rite of circumambulation around the Kaaba, which is built with the perfect bricks, the perfect ashlar stone. And the cornerstone is basically that stone from heaven that fell, which resembles the house not made with hands. Inside, you have the pillars and the Kaaba. So ultimately, it's and once you're walking around, it doesn't matter who's on your left, who's on your right. He could be white, black, Arab, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're all clothed with that same substance, with the white cloth, removed of all monies and valuables. And everyone's in that journey together, knowing, my brother Stephen, is that when we come out of our mother's womb, naked and empty and crying, that's the way we go from this earth, as Freemasonry teaches us and prepares us to be ready for death at any time. And teaches us is that the greatest wealth that you can acquire is what good did you do for yourself and others. That is the wealth that will carry you forward. It's not about the houses and the monies or big towers. We recently seen a sheikh in the Arab world who is the owner of Burj Khalifa. Now he died and he didn't take that with him. So,
letting go, right?
Yeah.
Letting go, absolutely.
Yeah, that's it.
So I continue with a technical question. Circumvallation of the Kaaba is from west to east, I would say, right? Is it anti-clockwise, I think, in order for us to understand each other. In the way of St. James, it's from east to west. And I will be talking about changes in energy levels and seeing what one does not usually see, because one is now light and clean and free. Is there any information from Muslim colleagues, which I have not, perhaps you might have, of alteration, of change, of heightening these spiritual levels after doing the pilgrimage?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, because what happens is after you become an entered apprentice, there's something that changes in your life. There's a change in your aura, in your brain waves when you go from entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. And there's even somebody here in the States that's doing a study on that, on the changes.
That's very interesting.
So in the Kaaba, what happens is when you go around that rite of circumambulation, they tell you that basically you are cleansed. You are basically a baby who just came out of your mother, and you have no sins, you have no problems, and you are given a fresh start in life. And that's why in the Kaaba, many people will shave their heads, because it's basically signifying their removal or attachment to the world, that they are born again. Just like how a baby, he comes out with no hair, they shave their heads and they have their pilgrimage, and they tell us that God has cleansed us of all of our sins and we have been given a fresh start. And that kind of, there was a Sufi brother that I spoke to who did the Hajj. And he said when he was at the Hajj, he felt like some entity was there at the Kaaba that took his heart out, cleansed his heart, put it on a scale to see if he was worthy or not, and then put his heart back into his body. Because he got really sick when he was at the Kaaba. And I asked him, what happened to you? He said, I felt like there was an entity there that was watching me, and it took his hands and put his hand into my heart and was doing something to me. And I felt like I was being judged to see if I was worthy or not to be there. So I have heard stories about what takes place over there, how in Freemasonry, when you're an initiate, let's say before your initiation, there were books, video games, movies, and stories that you overlooked that had Masonic symbolism. But after initiation, you were able to see that all of these books, movies, and video games, the initiatic eye, it was teaching you everything right there, but you couldn't see it. You didn't have the eyes to see and the heart to feel.
This is truly amazing. Upon arrival in Santiago, if you've done the pilgrimage, you get a certificate of indulgence which pardons all your sins. This is on the other side. So these are mirrors, basically. They mirror each other in more ways than one. But we're not talking ecumenism here. We're talking something quite real and immediate.
Yeah. So it's very interesting you say, because as I said, I come from a Vedic Hindu tradition, and our shrines are never built against a wall. They're always the middle of the temple. So every time you go into the temple, you have to circumambulate round. So every time you're doing that, going around, so in a way, the universe is in the middle.
Yes.
The creator is in the middle. And every time you go around, you are leaving your sins, and hopefully you're coming to a point where you're cleansed again. But yeah, it's very interesting. All these traditions, we may have incorporated them into volumes of sacred laws, but they come from very ancient thinking and very ancient knowledge of how we would reach the supreme by invoking his presence where we are. And I think that's what we try to do when we, if you walk a straight path or you go around or whatever, but all we're trying to do is really invoke the Supreme, to come to us in one form or another,
Yes.
to say, well, I'm going to reveal something to you, but not everything. Follow the path, learn, become a better person, and shed those skins that cover you.
Yep.
That each
Yep.
step you shed a skin. For next step, so you're becoming more and when you mentioned about hairs, again from the Hindu, when a child is born, a male, even in some parts of Hinduism, even the girls, their heads are shaved because
Yes.
you're separating the link from the Supreme as such, because you're two things: you're connected to your past life and you're reborn to start the journey again. So
This
you
is
can
very
start clean.
valuable knowledge. Very
So
valuable and
you can
important
start
knowledge.
your journey again, and hopefully this time your journey may not, may bring you to a better position. But it's fascinating. I mean, this is lovely that we can talk about all these things.
Thank you, Brother Hasu. You
I
and
th-
I are also connected from past lives, and we are again
we're
brothers
all
in this
connected,
life as well.
look, whether we like it or not, we've met on this path because
Yes.
not because we wanted to meet, but there was someone else who wanted the path to cross. So
Yes.
we don't create our destiny. Our destiny is created by someone else. Now, how you look at it, how you walk that path, how you understand it, so be it. But let's and none of us are perfect. That's a great thing. As soon as as long as we admit our imperfections and our fallibilities and our weaknesses, that
Yes.
is our strength. That is
Yes.
our first strength. But
That's
that's
it.
my stuff, my thoughts anyway. But Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah.
Don't need to raise your hand. It's we're becoming. There's only a few of us. So.
That's fine. Sometimes our conversations get so involved. I hate to interrupt because I'm
No.
trying to absorb the knowledge of those that are speaking at the same time. So I politely raise my hand to come into the conversation. But with respect to the circumambulation, and one of the things that I do in my lodge is before the lodge meeting starts, or the brethren will come in, I will give the lodge a blessing, meaning I will circumambulate around the lodge with frankincense, with the burning of the frankincense and whatnot, and invoke blessings as has been stated here at the Kaaba, or in the first degree. We're trying to get rid of all our material possession of all our material things and bring in the creator into our meeting, into our halls, and into our lives. And I was going to ask Brother Salam, has he experienced that in any of the meetings that he has attended, and were they for the same reasons as we're speaking about today?
Thank you, Brother Thomas. I appreciate your question. And that's very interesting that you do that for your lodge, because in the first Sufi presentation that I did for Sapere Aude in January, I mentioned the tradition of basically the incense or the tabernacle that was there at King Solomon's temple, where they would always light up frank incense. So in many Sufi initiatic experiences, if you go to the Sufi tekkas, let's say you go to Turkey and you deal with the Bektashi or the Naqshbandi, in their initiatic experiences, they will put incense on each corner of the room to basically remove yourself from this material world and to become in union with God. So that's another comparison. And there are some Masonic lodges who still follow that tradition of the tabernacle of King Solomon's temple, where they will have incense at different parts of their lodges. And that depends on what lodge or jurisdiction, because everyone does things their own way. But I have heard about that. And it's so interesting to see you do that too.
But
Yes,
sorry, Thomas, go
if I
ahead. Sorry.
yes, in the jurisdiction that I was in on the East Coast, which was more of Islamic Moorish traditions, they
Yes.
practice it there more.
Yeah.
But now that I'm on the West Coast, I'm out in California now. And I was bringing these traditions with me. There were a lot of, well, what is he doing? Questions or looks.
Yes.
Now I'm also the high priest in my Royal Arch. You were speaking of the Royal Arch during your presentation, where I would normally use the incense in the Royal Arch degree and not as much in the the first 3 degrees. But given that we're supposed to not have or divest ourselves of all those material things and desires, and so that we get rid of those superfluities and vices and whatnot. Even though we come in there with these particular uniforms on, whatever uniforms that your lodge says that you wear at your meeting, we're still reminded of the purity with that lambskin apron and the in my opinion, and the invoking of the blessings and the purification with the frankincense. And so, as Brother Hasul said, we're here to all teach one another and learn from one another. Those are some of the things that I brought to my current lodge.
Well, I was going to say, Brother Salman will say, also say, because in our tradition, because we come from the subcontinent, the burning of incense is a daily thing, the agarbati as they call it. Every morning when we have a shrine in the house where we say our prayers, every morning we light the diva, which is like a candle, and incense to start your prayers. So it's a daily morning, and then you do the same thing in the evening. So again, this is very much what we were talking. What I find fascinating is that these are traditions that go right across the world. Everywhere. I'm sure even in the ancient tribal traditions, going back to Africa or South America, they used to burn some sort of incense or some sort of what you said from the tree, the gum from the tree, which became again part of the incense. So these are traditions that fascinate us and baffle us as to why all these things happen across the world. Yet 2000 years ago, there was no internet, no plane travel, no books. And yet, the traditions or the process of looking for the supreme and walking that path is very similar. It's very similar. There's very little difference. And yet today, everyone thinks, oh, I'm doing better, or he's doing worse. This is the right way. So this is the wrong way. Hey, when you go to sleep, there's only one way you do it. You dream and you fear and you wake up and think, God, was that a nightmare or was it a good dream?
Thank you,
I
brother.
too burn I'm sorry, brother. I too burn incense daily at my home. I don't have a particular place in the house as for my altars or offerings and whatnot, but I do like to bring in the good spirits with the burning and the offering of my incense on a daily basis, and I usually do that in the mornings and when I get up after I've given my prayers and blessings.
But the ancients were pragmatic. They thought, well, burn incense will please supreme, but at the same time it'll kill the insects. So
not only that, but in Malta they do it. It's called the Bahir in order to ward the evil eye.
Yes.
Right.
So it's
Right.
there. Bahar, it's called. They use olive leaves more often than not. So you see how it spreads and it transforms itself.
Yes.
Not only frankincense.
Brother, we've been here, brothers and friends. I call everyone brothers and sisters. So friends, foes, whatever you want to say besides that. But we've been here 2 hours or over 2 hours. I just looked at my clock. I'm sure if there's nothing else, or if there's no other questions or comments, but someone, you've given us 2 hours of your precious time to share with us knowledge, thoughts, principles, values. What we take out of it is something that we should all contemplate. Does it make it a better world? Do we
Yes.
think better of each other? But hey, so thank you very much. And if you'd like to leave any comments before if anyone else has any comments before Brother Salman has a final closing comments.
Thank you, Brother Hasu, very much. I thank you, Brother Stephen, Thomas, all of the brothers and sisters who have participated here and not only helped me grow, but I hope I was able to benefit you all as well, as in this short human life, we're all walking each other home and we owe this love and light to one another. And we're all connected with each other in some way. As myself, coming from the subcontinent, I come from Hindu ancestors. My mother's family is from the Kapoor family, and my father is from the Thapar family, and that is before the partition happened. So I have the blood flowing inside of me of Muslims, of Hindus, of different beings. So in reality, we're not so different from each other. And I encounter Brother Hasu on this journey, other brethren who have aided and assisted me. Yes, the world is not perfect. Sometimes we cannot be perfect in our ineffable nature, but we must continue to strive to be higher. And as we see, we talked about these different rites and traditions. Every culture is a mirror reflection. You'll find that elements of Freemasonry, and what's so beautiful about Freemasonry is that it brings all those mirrors under one umbrella, where we are a tapestry of different colors and patterns that's to be celebrated, not condemned. So let us celebrate the mirrors in each other's lives and know that it doesn't matter if you have a past master next to your name, Master Mason or 33rd. If you are not a true lover or initiate of the heart and do not reciprocate that same to your brothers and sisters, then that is something that dies with you in this life. So be good to yourself and others with this short time that we've been given on this earth, and especially with the way things are going now. Sometimes you never know.
But thank you very much for that. And I'd just like to add to that and say that we are threads of different fabrics, different colors, but hopefully we can all get together and weave a beautiful tapestry.
Yes.
Which pleases Almighty, saying that we have done well.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you all again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, brother. Our next encounter will be, I think, Sunday. Don't quote me, but David will be sending out invites for whatever is happening on Sunday. So I look forward to seeing you all again Sunday. To all of you, have a good days ahead. Be at peace. Be kind to each other. Be kind to the world, and be happy. If you are happy, everyone is happy. So let's get on with it, and God bless you all. Take care.